1. Let me tell you about this absolutely gorgeous piece of American muscle, a 1977 GMC Sierra that's caught my eye. This isn't just any pickup. We're looking at a Grande 15 short bed with 4x4 capability that's turning heads in a classic green finish, matched perfectly with its green interior. Under that hood, you're getting serious power with a 6.6L 400 V8 engine. These motors were built to last and deliver the grunt you need. The automatic transmission means comfortable cruising, while power steering and brakes make this vintage beast surprisingly manageable in daily use. The dealer's asking $18,900, and honestly, for a clean title Sierra from '77 in what appears to be well-preserved condition, that's in the ballpark of today's market for these increasingly collectible trucks. The odometer shows 70,000, though being a '77, those miles are exempt on the title as mentioned. What really makes this truck special is that it's a Grande 15 model in 4x4 configuration. These are becoming harder to find, especially in this apparently solid condition. The short bed format also adds to its appeal, making it more manageable and, for many collectors, more desirable. Just keep in mind you'll need to factor in additional costs for tax, title, and fees since this is coming from a dealership. If you're in the market for a classic GMC that combines vintage charm with real utility, this Sierra deserves a serious look. 2. Let me tell you about this sweet '67 Chevy C10 that's got me excited. This isn't your average work truck. Someone's put some serious love and thought into making this a proper street machine. At the heart of this beauty is a modified 350 V8 that's been upgraded with performance goodies. We're talking a cam, lifters, springs, and rockers. The Holley Carb and Edelbrock intake manifold combo is a classic performance setup that just works, and with headers and a new full exhaust system, you know this thing's got a voice. The attention to detail is impressive. They've modernized it in all the right ways. You're getting four-wheel disc brakes, a huge upgrade from the original drums, and those American racing wheels wrapped in Nitto tires give it the perfect stance. The wooden bed floor adds that classic touch we all love. Inside, it's practically all new. Door seals, panels, visors, carpet, and even power seats from a '90s Cadillac for modern comfort. They've added Dynamat to keep things quiet, and that Hurst shifter with the RPM tack gives it a proper hot rod feel. With 53,000 miles on the clock and a clean title, the asking price of $28,000 reflects the quality of the build and current market values for well-modified C10S. The seller mentions it's very clean underneath, which is crucial for these classics. 3. Let me tell you about this incredible piece of American history, a 1952 Ford F1 with a fascinating story that's got me genuinely excited. This isn't just any old truck. It's a living piece of automotive heritage with a documented history from Memphis to Mississippi, and now up in New England. What we've got here is a former vermilion red F1 that's now wearing a non-stock blue paint job, courtesy of its second owner Gerald, who picked it up for just $11 back in '69. Talk about the deal of the century. The heart of this beauty is a Mercury 255 flathead V8, bored .060 over, sporting Edelbrock aluminum heads, paired with an F2 non-synchro 4-speed transmission. The current owner has done some serious mechanical work to keep this truck authentic and reliable. They've converted it back to 6V, with extra ground straps for reliable starting, installed new kingpins, steering components, brake system overhaul, and even went back to a proper 2-barrel carb setup with an oil bath air cleaner. That's the kind of attention to detail that matters to true enthusiasts. At $24,000, you're getting a driver-quality classic that's been maintained for actual use. The odometer shows 24,675, but as with any vehicle this age, true mileage is unknown. The body's described as solid and rot-free, though there is some surface rust underneath, which is totally normal for a 70-plus-year-old truck. Let's be honest about the quirks. You'll need to master double clutching with that non-synchro transmission. The front blinkers need attention, the radio's not working, and those drum brakes require some serious leg power. The tires, while still good for local drives, might need replacing if you're planning long highway trips. 4. Let me tell you about this interesting 1970 F100 that's caught my attention. and I've got to be straight with you about both its charms and challenges. This is a long bed survivor that stayed remarkably stock. No wild modifications or questionable customizations here. Under the hood, you're looking at a rebuilt 302 V8 with low miles, which is always a good starting point. The seller emphasizes it's stone stock and unmolested, which is increasingly rare for these classics. Now let's talk real talk about what you're getting for that $20,000 asking price. While the seller describes it as very good to excellent condition, there are some issues you'll need to address. The C4 automatic transmission is leaking, and these aren't exactly cheap to rebuild. The windshield needs replacing, and the dual exhaust system needs work. The AC is present but needs servicing. Pretty common for a truck of this vintage. The odometer shows 22,030, but it's rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. The interior is described as being in good shape, which is a plus since original interiors are getting harder to find. What makes this F100 interesting is its originality. Finding an unmodified example is becoming increasingly rare. It's currently being driven daily, which suggests it's mechanically sound despite its issues. For the right buyer who wants a solid project that doesn't need a complete overhaul, but could use some mechanical attention, this could be a good starting point. Just make sure to factor in the cost of addressing those known issues when considering the asking price. 5. Let me give you the straight scoop on this 1985 El Camino, and I've got to be honest, this one's definitely a project car that needs some love. We're looking at a V6 powered example from the final generation of El Caminos, and at $2,750, we're in project car territory here. The seller's being upfront about some issues. The odometer's broken and has rolled over, so the actual mileage is anyone's guess. The biggest concern here is the steering column that needs replacement. That's not just a cosmetic issue, it's a crucial mechanical component you'll need to address right away. On the positive side, the seller mentions they've put in a new muffler and fuel pump, which are good updates. The engine runs good according to the seller, which is a decent starting point. Being a V6 model, you're not getting the power of the V8 versions, but you'll get better fuel economy. At this price point and condition, this El Camino would be best suited for someone who's comfortable with mechanical work or has a good relationship with their mechanic. The steering column issue isn't a small fix, and with a vehicle of this age, you should expect other issues to pop up. 6. Let me tell you about this 1984 F150 that's got an interesting story to tell. This is a straight-six, manual transmission workhorse that's seen its fair share of miles with 155,000 on the clock. What makes this truck interesting is the recent investment the owner has made. We're talking about $5,000 in new parts and repairs just in the last couple months. They've tackled some important maintenance items: new fuel sending unit, coolant temp sender, oil pan gasket, O2 sensor, high beam switch, and even a new fuel tank. That's the kind of comprehensive maintenance that shows someone's really cared about keeping this truck running right. The red paint looks decent in that classic 80s Ford way, and having a clean title is always a plus. Being a manual transmission model with the inline-six engine, this is one of those combinations that Ford truck enthusiasts often seek out for their reliability and simplicity. At $6,000, you're essentially paying a small premium over the recent parts investment, which actually makes sense given the current market for these vintage F150s. The straight-six/manual combo is known for being pretty bulletproof when maintained properly. What makes these 80s F150s special is their perfect balance of modern enough to be usable, but old enough to be simple to work on. They're from an era when trucks were still primarily work vehicles, built with functionality in mind. And this one appears to be a solid example that's been given some serious mechanical attention recently. 7. Let me tell you about this sweet 1970 El Camino Custom that's really caught my eye. This isn't just any El Camino. We're looking at a proper muscle car meets pickup with some tasty upgrades. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8 pushing 300 horses, breathing through a Carter 4-barrel carb and letting those gases flow through headers and dual exhaust. The powertrain's been thoughtfully upgraded with a turbo 350 automatic transmission and a B&M lockup torque converter with control. That's a solid setup for both performance and reliability. The body's just received fresh paintwork in yellow, and those centerline-style mag wheels really set off the look. With 90,000 original miles on the body, this El Camino has lived a relatively gentle life for its age. The saddle and black interior is holding up well, with a recovered bench seat, and they're even throwing in extra material for future touch-ups. That's thinking ahead. Now let's be straight about what needs attention. The headliner needs replacing, but the seller's willing to include a new kit for serious buyers, which is a nice gesture. At $23,500, you're in the ballpark for a well-maintained 70 El Camino with the desirable 350 engine. What makes this one special is the combination of recent paintwork, thoughtful upgrades, and what appears to be careful maintenance over the years. 8. Let me tell you about this incredible 1964 El Camino that's got me genuinely excited. This is one well-sorted example that's been getting all the right attention from its current owner. Under the hood, you've got the classic 283 V8 paired with a 3-speed manual and Hurst shifter, a combination that's pure 60s muscle. The current owner has done some serious mechanical upgrades that really matter. They've installed an MSD electronic ignition for reliable starting, Willwood disc brakes up front for modern stopping power, and completely resealed the engine. No oil leaks. That's huge for these classics. The upgrades continue with a new Edelbrock 1406 4-barrel carb, comp cam rocker arms, and fresh Cooper Cobra radials on AR wheels. They've even added thoughtful touches like a wood steering wheel and an auxiliary fuel gauge since the dash unit isn't working. At $16,500, you're getting a driver-quality classic that's been maintained for actual use. The body appears solid with only minimal surface rust around some trim pieces, and it's got new floorboards, always a good sign in a car of this vintage. The 85,000 miles showing seem reasonable for its age. What makes this El Camino special is how it's been upgraded for reliability while keeping its classic character intact. The working 8-track player with a collection ranging from Black Sabbath to Fleetwood Mac is just icing on the cake. One honest note, while it's been well protected with car covers during rain, the seller mentions it deserves garage storage, which is absolutely true for these classics. 9. Let me tell you about this 1962 Chevy pickup that's caught my attention, though I've got to say the seller's being pretty minimal with the details here. What we know is we're looking at a fleet-side short-bed half-ton pickup, which is one of the most desirable body styles from this era. The big news under the hood is the 327 V8. That's a great engine choice for these trucks, offering plenty of power and good reliability when maintained properly. It's paired with a manual transmission, which is always fun in these vintage pickups. The odometer shows 51,000 miles, though as with any 60-plus-year-old vehicle, you'll want to verify the actual mileage history. The clean title is definitely a plus. At $14,000 OBO, or best offer, you're in the ballpark for these early 60s Chevys, especially with the desirable short-bed fleet-side configuration and that 327 V8. However, without more details about the truck's condition, restoration history, or mechanical state, any serious buyer would want to do a thorough in-person inspection. What makes these 62 Chevys special is their classic styling. They're from an era when trucks were starting to become more stylish, while still maintaining their workhorse capabilities. The fleet-side bed gives it a clean, modern look that's aged particularly well. 10. Let me tell you about this seriously cool 1960 F100 that's got the perfect blend of vintage charm and modern upgrades. This isn't your average 60 F100. Someone's put some serious thought and money into making this a proper custom cruiser. Under that patinaed hood, which has been preserved with a matte clear coat, nice touch, you're looking at a 302 V8 that's been modernized with Edelbrock fuel injection. That EFI setup includes their app-based monitoring system with self-learning capability. That's some serious modern tech in a classic package. The suspension setup is where things get really interesting. They've installed a Mustang II front end from Performance Online with a Heights crossmember, plus a full airbag suspension system with a wired controller offering 3 settings. You can even control each bag independently. That's some serious flexibility for getting the stance just right. The upgrades continue with power disc brakes at all four corners, custom headers and exhaust work done by Thunderbird Exhaust, and those staggered US mag wheels really set off the look. They've even added a custom ragtop sunroof for some extra style points. At $22,500 OBO, you're getting a lot of thoughtful modifications and upgrades. What makes this F100 special is how it combines that perfect patina look, protected by clear coat, with modern drivability upgrades. The fuel injection, air suspension, and disc brakes mean this truck will drive more like a modern vehicle while keeping its classic looks. 11. Let me tell you about this sweet 1968 Chevy C10 short bed that's got some really nice custom touches while keeping that classic charm. Being an original California truck is always a big plus. These typically have better body preservation than trucks from rust-prone regions. Under the hood, you've got the tried-and-true 350 V8. But what's really interesting is they've paired it with a 700 R4 automatic transmission. That's a smart upgrade that gives you better highway cruising capability with that overdrive gear. The custom work is tasteful. They've shaved the door handles for a clean look, added a low-car shifter, those are quality pieces, and installed custom gauges to keep tabs on everything. The Positraction rear end means better traction and performance, and they've modernized the fuel system with a fuel cell. Rolling stock is period perfect with 15 inches rally wheels wrapped in BF Goodrich radials, a combination that gives you classic looks with modern handling characteristics. The black paint gives it that timeless appeal. At $19,000 OBO, you're in the right ballpark for a well-modified C10 from this era. The odometer shows 16,000 miles, though on a modified classic like this, that number is less relevant than the overall condition and quality of the builds. What makes this C10 special is how it balances modifications with usability. The 700 R4 transmission upgrade alone makes this truck much more practical for regular use, while touches like the shaved doors and custom gauges give it show car appeal. 12. Let me tell you about this interesting 1979 GMC Sierra 25 wagon, and I've got to point out some inconsistencies in the listing that you'll want to clarify with the seller. First, there's a discrepancy in the mileage. The listing shows both 104,000 and 46,000 miles, so you'll definitely want to verify the actual mileage. But let's talk about what makes this vehicle special. It's a 9-seater wagon version of the Sierra, which is pretty uncommon to find these days. Under the hood, you're getting the mighty 454 V8. That's a lot of engine. These big block motors are known for their torque and reliability when maintained properly. It's paired with an automatic transmission, and it's a 2WD setup. The sellers added some modern convenience with a Bluetooth stereo system, while keeping original features like the roof rack and running boards. All the glass is reported good, which can be a costly replacement on these, and it's got working AC, always a plus in a classic. At $6,000, if everything checks out as described, you're looking at a pretty interesting price point for a running and driving classic GMC with the big 454. The 3 rows of seating make it a unique family hauler or potential event vehicle. What makes this Sierra interesting is its wagon configuration. These aren't nearly as common as the pickup versions, especially in surviving condition. The combination of the big V8, passenger capacity, and original condition, if verified, makes it an intriguing piece of American automotive history. 13. Let me tell you about this sweet 67 C10 that's been thoughtfully modified with all the right upgrades. This isn't your average work truck anymore. Someone's put some serious love into making this a proper street machine. Under the hood, you've got a mildly built 350 V8 with performance upgrades including a cam, lifters, springs, and rockers. The combination of the Holley carb and Edelbrock intake manifold is a tried-and-true setup for reliable power. With headers and a new full exhaust system, you know this thing's got a proper V8 rumble. The attention to detail here is impressive. They've modernized it in all the right ways. 4-wheel disc brakes, a huge safety upgrade, American racing wheels wrapped in Nitto tires, and that wooden bed floor adds the perfect classic touch. The underbed fuel tank is a clean modification that improves both looks and function. Inside, it's practically all new. Door seals, panels, visors, carpet, And they've even upgraded to power seats from a 90s Cadillac for modern comfort. The Dynamat in the floor means a quieter, more civilized ride. That Hurst shifter and RPM tack give it the perfect hot rod feel. With 53,000 miles showing and a clean title, the asking price of $28,000 reflects the quality and comprehensiveness of the build. The seller mentions it's very clean underneath, which is crucial for these classics. What makes this C10 special is how it balances classic looks with modern drivability. It's not just a showpiece, it's built to be driven and enjoyed. The combination of comfort upgrades with performance mods means you could genuinely use this truck regularly while still turning heads at car shows. 14. Let me tell you about this seriously built 1977 K5 Blazer that's basically a brand new truck in a classic body. This isn't your average K5. Someone's put some serious thought and money into making this a proper performance 4x4. The heart of this beast is a 383-stroker, pushing out 410 horsepower and 420 feet lbs of torque. That's some serious muscle. Even better, it comes with a 7-year 70,000-mile warranty, which is pretty remarkable for a built engine. They've paired it with a 4L60E transmission with a Stage 2 shift kit and advanced adapter torque converter. That's a solid combination for both performance and reliability. The engine build is comprehensive. High-performance intake manifold, Holley carb, new timing chain, push rods, valve guides, springs, and rocker studs. They've even added an electric fuel pump and low-car throttle pedal assembly for modern reliability. The suspension and drivetrain haven't been ignored either. You're looking at KYB Mono Max shocks, new leaf springs, fresh axles front and rear, new drag links, pitman arm, and rebuilt hubs. With only 2,100 miles showing, this is essentially a fresh build. Inside, they've added some style with a chrome steering column and wood-finish steering wheel. The brakes have been redone front and rear, which you'll appreciate with that 410 horsepower on tap. At $19,900, you're getting a seriously built K5 with documented improvements everywhere. What makes this Blazer special is the combination of modern performance upgrades while keeping the classic look of these beloved K5s. The brown paint gives it that perfect 70s vibe. 15. Let me tell you about this fascinating 1965 F100 that's got quite a story to tell, and a serious surprise under the hood. First off, this is a one-owner for 35 years situation, which is always interesting because it means someone's had plenty of time to evolve and perfect their vision. And what a vision it is! The heart of this beast is a turbocharged 383-stroker. Started life as a 350 small block Chevy, yes, Chevy and a Ford, paired with a built turbo 350 transmission with a shift kit and manual shift capability. The drivetrain gets even more interesting with a 12-bolt truck rear end featuring a PowerTrax locker. That's serious hardware for putting power down. But here's where it gets really clever. They've grafted on a complete front end from a 2013 Crown Victoria, giving this classic truck modern power steering and disc brakes. That's some serious engineering. At $7,500, you're looking at a lot of performance potential for the money. The seller's being straight up about this truck needing an owner who understands mechanics. That's important with any modified classic, especially one running forced induction. What makes this F100 special is how it represents decades of evolution under one owner. It's not your typical restoration. It's more of a hot rod truck that combines classic looks with serious performance upgrades. The green paint gives it that classic truck vibe, while hiding its modern performance capabilities. The odometer shows 2,800 miles, which is likely since the rebuild or modifications. These 65 F100s are becoming increasingly collectible, but this one's definitely for the performance enthusiast who appreciates creative engineering rather than the restoration purist. 16. Let me tell you about this seriously interesting 1972 C10 short bed that's packing some serious muscle and smart upgrades. First, let's address the elephant in the room. This truck has had a cab swap, with the VIN showing it was originally a long bed. That's not uncommon with these trucks when restoring them, as short beds are more desirable. Under the hood, you're getting a big block Chevy V8 paired with a 4-speed automatic. That's a potent combination. The upgrades list is impressive. Willwood disc brakes up front, a huge improvement over stock. Boyd Coddington wheels, Holley 4-barrel carb, Champion aluminum radiator, and Hooker headers. They've relocated the fuel tank under the bed, a popular mod, and added a spray-in bed liner for durability. Inside, it's been modernized with bucket seats and a floor shifter, plus an I Did It tilt steering column. The gauge setup combines factory style with modern odometer units, though heads up, the gas gauge isn't working. They've converted the door glass to one piece, eliminating the vent windows, and added an upgraded stereo system. At $27,500, you're in the market for a well-modified C10 with some serious performance credentials. The big block power, 4-speed auto, and those Willwood brakes make this a proper performer, not just a showpiece. What makes this C10 special is the combination of thoughtful upgrades while maintaining the classic look these trucks are famous for. The documentation with receipts is always a plus, helping verify the work that's been done. 17. Let me tell you about this absolutely fantastic 1985 F-250 that's got me grinning from ear to ear, partly because of the truck, and partly because of the seller's honest and hilarious description. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. It's packing Ford's legendary 460 big block V8 with a 4-barrel carb. And here's the kicker. It's only got 29,045 original miles. That's practically nothing for these overbuilt workhorses. It's an XLT Lariat model too, which was the fancy pants version back in '85, wearing a classic two-tone red and white paint job. The seller's wonderfully honest about both the good and the character-building features. On the plus side, you're getting a largely original unmolested truck with the massive bench seat that defined these classics. The bed's still in good shape, rare for a work truck, and it's wearing those classic blue California plates. Now for the character, there's some rust above the driver's door, a battle scar on the rear corner, the headliner's seen better days, and the AC is, well, let's call it vintage. But hey, that's part of the charm with these old trucks. The 460 V8 might drink gas like it's going out of style, but it's one of the most reliable engines Ford ever built. These trucks were made when pickups were still primarily work vehicles, built to last with solid steel and simple mechanics. 18. Let me tell you about this sweet 1950 Chevy 3100 that's been thoughtfully updated while keeping its vintage charm intact. Under the hood, you've got the trusty 235 inline-6 engine paired with the classic 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's the original style setup these trucks came with, and it's known for being bulletproof when maintained properly. The seller mentions it's very reliable, which is exactly what you want to hear with a 70-plus-year-old truck. One of the biggest upgrades here is the 4-wheel disc brake conversion. That's a serious safety improvement over the original drum brakes these trucks came with. They've also taken care of the essential maintenance items in recent years. New starter, battery, and fuel pump, plus fresh wheels and tires. It's pretty impressive that all the gauges and wipers are working. That's not always the case with these old trucks. The green paint gives it that perfect period look that these advanced design Chevys wear so well. At $27,500 OBO, you're in the ballpark for a well-maintained 3100 from this era, especially with the disc brake upgrade and recent mechanical work. What makes these 1950 3100s special is their iconic design. They're from what many consider the golden age of American truck styling, with those flowing fenders and 5-bar grille that's instantly recognizable. For someone looking for a classic truck that's been sensibly upgraded for modern drivability while maintaining its original character, this could be a great option. The combination of the original drivetrain with modern brakes means you get the classic experience with added safety and reliability. 19. Let me give you the straight scoop on this 1984 full-size Bronco that's looking for some TLC. This is definitely a project truck, but at $3,000, it could be a great starting point for the right person. Let's be honest about what we're looking at here. It's got 212,000 miles on the clock, rolled over, and it needs some attention. The seller's upfront about the work needed. It's due for a tune-up, carb rebuild, and new tires. There's also a soft spot developing in the floor pan near the gas pedal, though the rest of the floor pans are reportedly solid. On the positive side, this Bronco's still running and driving with current classic plates, and importantly, the 4WD system and locking hubs are working. That's huge for these old rigs. It's got the V8 engine paired with a manual transmission, which is a desirable combination for these trucks. What makes these 80s Broncos interesting is their versatility. The seller mentions using it as both a hunting vehicle and a camping rig, fitting an air mattress in the back with the tailgate down, showing just how versatile these vehicles can be. At $3,000, you're getting into this classic 4x4 at a pretty accessible price point. The seller's being straight up about it needing someone who wants to keep it running, and they're right about parts being cheap and easy to find. That's one of the benefits of these old Ford trucks. 20. Let me tell you about this interesting 1969 Dodge D200 utility truck that's got some potential, but let's be real about what you're getting into here. The heart of this truck is a 383 high-performance V8 with a 4-barrel carb and headers. That's a serious power plant when it's running right. However, here's the catch. This truck hasn't fired up in 2 years and needs to be towed away. It's going to need timing work and a thorough going through to get back on the road. The good news is the wheels and tires are decent and holding air, which makes loading it easier. And the glass is all good. That's always a plus with these old trucks, since replacement glass can be hard to find. The utility boxes add some interesting potential for a work truck or custom build. Now for the honest part, you've got some rust in the lower doors, which is pretty common for these old Dodges, and with 100,000 plus miles, odometers rolled over, you're looking at a project that's going to need some serious attention to get roadworthy again. At $3,500, you're buying potential here. What makes these 69 D200 ES interesting is that 383 engine. When running right, these trucks had some serious muscle for their era. The utility box configuration is also pretty unique and could make for an interesting restoration project. For someone who knows their way around old Mopar engines and isn't afraid of a project, this could be an interesting opportunity. Just make sure to factor in the cost of getting it running again, dealing with that rust, and the towing expense when considering the purchase price.